A very good evening, friends. I welcome you all to the daily newspaper analysis brought to you by the Shankar IAS Academy. Today's date is 24th April 2024. Here are the list of articles which we are gonna discuss today. So let's start the discussion. Before entering our discussion, in this section, let us solve the two previous year MCQs and analyze them. See the first question. See, this question is regarding the polity. Before answering, let us analyze the correctness of every statement. With regard to our first statement, see the first statement. According to the Constitution of India, the central government has a duty to protect the states from the internal disturbances. Okay, let's see the veracity of the statement. See, under Article 355 of the Constitution, the central government is having a duty to protect the states. So this statement is correct because Article 355 states that it shall be the duty of the Union to protect the states against external aggressions and internal disturbances, and to ensure that the government of each state is carried out in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. So the first statement is correct. See the second statement. The Constitution exempts the states from providing legal counsel to a person being held for preventive detention. Okay, let's see the veracity of the statement. See, Article 22 Class 1 of the Constitution guarantees the right to legal counsel to a person who is arrested. However, Article 22 subsection 3 specifies that the right under Article 22 Class 1 and 22 Class 2 do not apply to the individuals who are arrested or detained under any law providing for preventive detention. While this suggests that the Constitution does not explicitly guarantee the right to legal counsel for those detained preventively, Article 22 Class 5 enhances the procedural right of such individuals. It mandates that when someone is detained under preventive detention, the authority making the order must, as soon as possible, inform the detainee on the grounds of detention and afford them the earliest opportunity to make a representation against the detention. So, this statement is incorrect. Let us see the third statement. According to the Potta Act 2002, confessions of the accused before the police cannot be used as evidence. Okay, let's see the statement. See, this statement is incorrect because the Prevention of Terrorism Act Potta Act 2002, which has been repealed, allowed the confessions made by the accused before a police as a admissible evidence during the trial. So, the statement is incorrect. So, first statement alone is correct. So, the correct option is option A, only one. Now, with this, let us see the second MCQ of the day. See, this MCQ is from the Science and Tech portion. See the question. Consider the following statements. DNA barcoding can be a tool to, statement 1, assess the age of the plants or animals, distinguish among the species. Third one, identify the undesirable animal or plant in a processed food. Okay. See, before answering the question, let us understand about DNA barcoding. See, DNA barcoding is a method used in the molecular biology to identify the species using a short standardized gene sequence from their DNA. This concept is based on the fact that certain regions of the DNA evolve at relatively consistent rate and contain enough variation between the species to distinguish them. See, this study has several applications in the various fields like assessment of biodiversity, conservation biology, forensic science, and authentication of food. Moreover, it allows for the rapid and accurate species identification even in the cases where traditional morphological identification is challenging. With this basics, now let us approach the question. Look at the first statement. Geologists use the radiometric dating of uranium and the isotope of other radioactive elements combined with the observation of the fossils to chart the course of Earth's natural history and the evolution of life. See, to measure the age of plant and animals, scientists use a radioactive isotope of carbon called carbon-14 as their clock. So here, the option 1 is incorrect. Look at the second statement. DNA barcode allows the non-experts to objectively identify the species even from small damaged industrially processed material. Just as the unique pattern of bars identifies the each consumer product, DNA barcode is a unique pattern of sequence that can potentially identify each living thing. So the option 2 is correct. See the third statement. See, third statement is also correct because DNA barcoding are being used more in the food industry and food supply chain for food labeling, not only to support the food safety but also to uncover the food piracy in the freshly commercialized and technologically processed products. So statement 3 is also correct. So the correct option is option D, 2 and 3. So in this section, we saw about the two previous year questions and we also analyzed how to answer them. With this basics, now let us start the daily news analysis. Look at this Hindu article from the Sunday FAQ section. It talks about the guidelines issued by the Environmental Minister on green credit programs. Moreover, the article also questions upon the credibility of the scheme. So with this backdrop, let us understand about green credit programs and the issues therein from the preliminary perspective. Firstly, what is Green Credit Program? See, the Green Credit Program or GCP, which was initiated by the Union Environmental Ministry, aims to encourage the investment in the afforestation on the degraded forest lands to generate green credit. See, these credits are intended for the organizations and individuals to contribute to the restoration of environment rather than merely planting the trees. Know that under the GCP, 387 parcels of degraded forest lands, totally nearing 10,000 hectares, have been identified across the 13 states for the restoration activities. Interested parties can fund these projects with the actual afforestation which will be conducted by the State Forest Department. Then 2 years post planting, there will be an evaluation by the Indian Council of Forestry Research and Education or ICFRE. See, after completing the evaluation, each tree can earn 1 green credit. See, these credits can be utilized by the financiers to comply with the forest laws that necessitates the compensation for the forest land which will be used for non-forestry purposes, or they can be applied towards meeting the corporate social responsibility. Although currently non-tradable in nature, the GCP rules, which was established in October 2023, outline a future where these credits could be traded on the domestic markets and potentially convertible into a carbon credits if they contribute to significant reductions in the emissions of carbon. Here, from the preliminary perspective, we ought to understand that there will be 8 key activities which are eligible for earning the green credits programs. They are tree plantation, conservation of water, sustainable agriculture, waste management, air pollution reduction, mangrove conservation, eco-mark acquisition, and sustainable building and infrastructure. Moving on our discussion, recently the Ministry of Environment has updated its guidelines for the restoration of the degraded forest landscapes, giving the states the autonomy to determine the necessary density of trees, which was previously set at a minimum of 1,100 trees per hectare. See, this was made on recognizing that not all degraded area can support such density of trees. The new guidelines allows for the inclusion of shrubs, herbs and grasses as a suitable elements for restoration. See, although the program is in the pilot phase, there are ongoing deliberations on how to quantify non-tree vegetation for the green credits and determine the portion of compensatory afforestation obligations that can be offset using the green credit. See, the equivalence between the green credit and carbon credit is also under review. Now, having seen the broad basics of the green credit program, now let us see the issues there in this program. Firstly, critics have raised concerns that GCR could be detrimental to the forest ecology. See, the rules direct the State Forest Department to identify the degraded land parcels for the tree plantation to generate the credits. However, this approach has been criticized as unscientific and potentially disastrous for the local ecosystem. Secondly, there is a fear that GCR might lead to the creation of green deserts. See, this term refers to the areas where the tree plantations are established without considering the ecological complexities and the biodiversity of the original landscape. See, such plantations can disrupt the balance of ecosystems and do not support the diverse range of species that a natural forest would support. Then most importantly, the emphasis on the planting trees on degraded land parcels put pressure on those areas often categorized as wastelands, which are also ecologically important. See, this is all regarding the discussion. In our discussion today, we saw elaborately on the green credit programs and the issues which are associated with it. With this basics, let us end this discussion and take up the next news article for our analysis. Look at this Sunday article from the Hindu newspaper. It's about single-use plastics. See, an NGO called Center for Science and Environment analyzed that India prefers to regulate rather than completely ban the single-use plastics. This discussion takes place ahead of the international negotiations which are going to happen in Canada with 192 countries focusing on reducing the global plastic pollution. See, while some countries suggest strict restrictions or ban on plastics, India's approach is more about managing and controlling the use, production and disposal of plastics rather than completely prohibiting them. See, this is the crux of the article. With this background, let us revise plastic waste management rules for the upcoming preliminary examination. See, the Plastic Waste Management Rules of 2016 has given several mandates and responsibilities for managing the plastics waste in India. Here are some of the key points of it. Firstly, generators of the plastic waste are required to reduce the waste generation, prevent littering, and ensure that plastic waste are not discarded improperly. Secondly, the plastic waste must be segregated at the source itself, and generators are to hand over the segregated waste according to the established rules. See, this applies to both individual and bulk waste generators. Thirdly, producers, importers, and brand owners are now responsible under extended producer responsibility for managing both pre-consumer and post-consumer plastic packaging waste. This includes ensuring that the plastic waste is collected and recycled or processed in an environmentally safe ways. Also, the rules increase the minimum thickness of the plastic carry bags from 40 microns to 50 microns. See, the plastic sheets also must adhere to this minimum thickness to reduce the production of flimsier plastics, which are often not recycled and more likely to cause environmental damage. Know that the responsibility for implementing these rules is delegated to the local bodies, including Gram Panchayat in rural areas, which are tasked with overseeing the compliances and management efforts at the community level. See, these are all some of the foundational 2016 rules. However, they have not been implemented strictly in many places. So in 2022, India implemented rules which banned 19 categories of the single-use plastics like plastic cups, spoons, wrapping films for the sweet boxes and cigarette packets. However, it notably excludes the plastic bottles under the 200 ml and multi-layered packaging such as milk cartons. Now with these broad basics, let us see the recent 24 plastic waste management amendment rules. See, firstly, this amendment defines the biodegradable plastics. They are materials that can break down biologically in the specific environment like soil or landfills without leaving behind the microplastics. Next, it defines what is microplastics. They are solid plastic particles that are insoluble in water with a size ranging from 1 micron to 1000 microns. See, they are recognized as a significant pollution concern, particularly in the aquatic environment. Next, it expanded the definition of importer. See, the term now covers entities importing the various plastic-related materials like packaging, carry bags, sheets, raw materials, broadening from the earlier definition, which mainly included plastic packaging and similar items. Next, it has given inclusive definition for the word manufacturer. See, the category has been widened to include the producers of the plastic raw materials, compostable plastic and biodegradable plastic, capturing a wider range of entities under the designation. Next, it extended the scope of producer. This now covers entities involved with the production of not just plastic packaging but also intermediate materials which are used in the making of the plastic packaging and contract manufacturing for the brand owners. Next important rule is manufacture of items like carry bags from the compostable or biodegradable plastics are required to obtain a certification from the CPCB before they can market or sell those products. See, these are all the recent amendments to the plastic waste management rules. See, this is all regarding the discussion. In this discussion, we saw an important topic for the UPSC preliminary, that is plastic waste management rules, which are often asked in the preliminary examination. So with these basics, let us move on to the next discussion of the day. Look at this article from Hindu. It talks about the risk of price instability to trigger inflation due to the extreme weather events and prolonged geopolitical tensions. With this backdrop, let us understand about the quantitative and qualitative tools used by RBI to ensure the price stability by controlling the money supply from the preliminary perspective. Okay, let's get into discussion. See, RBI employs variety of quantitative and qualitative tools to regulate the monetary policy, control inflation, and ensure financial stability in the Indian economy. See, these tools are crucial in managing the key economic indicators like interest rates, money supply, exchange rates, etc. Let's delve into some of the major quantitative and qualitative tools utilized by the RBI. Firstly, with respect to quantitative tools. In this, the first comes is open market operations or OMO. See, this involves buying and selling of the governmental securities in the open market, control liquidity in the economy. When the RBI purchases the security, it injects money into the system, thereby increasing the liquidity. On the other hand, selling securities withdraws the liquidity from the system. Secondly, with respect to cash reserve ratio. See, commercial banks are required to maintain a certain percentage of deposit as reserves with the RBI. So by adjusting the CRR, RBI can influence the amount of lendable funds in the banking system. Thirdly, with respect to SLR. See, similar to CRR, SLR mandates the bank hold a certain portion of their deposits in liquid assets like governmental bonds, etc. So, adjusting SLR affects the ability of the banks to lend. Fourthly, repo rate. See, we know that repo rate is the rate at which RBI lends money to the commercial banks for the shorter period of time. So, changes in the repo rate influences the borrowing and lending rates in the economy, thereby impacting the consumption and investment. Finally, reverse repo rate. See, these are the rates at which the banks can park their surplus funds with the RBI. Altering this rate affects the liquidity conditions and incentivizes the banks to either lend or hold on to funds. These are all regarding the quantitative tools used by the RBI. Now coming to the qualitative tools, firstly with respect to credit rationing. See, RBI can impose restrictions on the lending by the banks to control the credit growth in specific sectors or to curb the inflationary pressures. Secondly, moral suasion. See, this involves verbal persuasion by the RBI to influence the lending and investment behavior of the banks. It includes public speeches, announcements, and informal meetings to convey the central bank's policy stance. Thirdly, selective credit controls. See, RBI can issue directives to the banks to limit the credit in certain sectors which are deemed to be speculative or overheated. This could include the caps on loan-to-value ratio for certain types of loans. Fourthly, direct actions. See, in extreme cases, RBI may resort to direct intervention in the financial markets to stabilize the prices or correct imbalances. This could involve buying or selling the specific assets or currencies. And finally, regulatory policies. See, RBI continuously updates and enforces the regulations which are governing the financial sectors, including banking norms, capital adequacy ratio, and risk management guidelines. These policies will overall shape the lending and investment environment in the country. See, this is all regarding the discussion. In this discussion, we saw about the various quantitative and qualitative monetary tools which are used by RBI to manage and control the liquidity in the system. With this basics, now let us move on to the next news article of the day. Look at this article. It talks about income inequality. In 2020-23, 22.6% of the India's national income went to top 1% of the population. See, this is the highest in the last 100 years. The top 0.1% of the population earned nearly 10% of the national income. See, India's income inequality, especially among the top earners, is one of the highest in the world. Then the article also talks about wealth inequality. In 2020-23, the top 1% of the population held 40% of the country's wealth, the highest since 1961. The share of wealth among the top 10% increased from 45% in 1961 to 65% in 2022-23. Conversely, the share of wealth among the bottom 50% and the middle 40% decreased, indicating a widening of gap between the rich and the rest. A small number of individuals own an average of 22.6 billion in wealth, which is 16,763 times the average wealth of an Indian. There is also a comparison with other countries. While India's wealth inequality is not as extreme as Brazil or South Africa, where the top 10% hold a significantly larger proportion of the nation's wealth, India's wealth concentration has tripled between 1961 to 2023. Despite not being as extreme as other countries, India's income inequality is among the highest globally, even surpassing the countries like South Africa, Brazil, and the US. Overall, these findings highlight a concerning trend where the rich are becoming richer while the poor are becoming poorer, both in the terms of income and the wealth distribution. See, this emphasizes the need for the policies aimed at reducing the inequality and promoting inclusive growth. See, this is all regarding the viewpoints which are given in the article. We shall discuss a mains related question related to this topic in our usual answer writing approach. Before entering our discussion, let us look into the syllabus. In mains, it comes under GS paper 1. Now, let us start the discussion. Look at this question. Due to the rising economic inequality and its effects on the human well-being and prosperity, the concept of inclusive growth has become a central phenomenon to the economic development. Explain this statement. See, this is a straightforward question. First, we are to define inclusive growth in the intro part. Then we have to explain the importance of inclusive growth and also explain why it is crucial for the sustainable economic development. Okay, let's start with the intro. Inclusive growth refers to the pattern of economic growth that benefits all segments of the society, particularly marginalized and vulnerable groups. It aims to reduce poverty and inequality while fostering opportunities for all individuals to participate in and benefit from the growth process. Here, we can also mention rising economic inequality. See, the economic inequality leads to the decreased consumer spending, limited investment opportunities, and poor human capital as seen in the countries like Mexico, Namibia, which are having high inequality and low GDP growths. Around 16% of India's population is multidimensionally poor in terms of health, education, and standard of living, according to the MPA report or Multidimensional Poverty Index report 2022. Moreover, social developmental issues like gender inequality, marginalization of communities like SC, ST, minority and child malnutrition is also a concern for India. See, this is with regard to the introduction. Now moving on to the body part of the answer. Here we are to develop an argument regarding how inclusive growth will lead to economic development. Firstly, reduced poverty. See, inclusive growth directly contributes to the poverty reduction by ensuring economic gains reaches the vulnerable sections of the population. Secondly, social stability. See, it fosters social cohesion by reducing the disparities between the societal groups. See, inclusive growth is instrumental in unlocking the full potential of human capital of any country. When marginalized groups like women, minority are excluded from the economic mainstream, a nation squanders valuable talent and creativity. In contrast, by investing in education, healthcare and skill development, inclusive growth unleashes a virtuous cycle of productivity and innovation, driving a sustainable economic progress. Thirdly, enhanced human development. See, it supports access to education, healthcare, basic services, leading to a more educated, healthier and skilled population. Fourthly, sustainable development. See, involving all segments of the society reduces the risk of leaving certain groups behind. Thus, it contributes to the long-term environmental and social stability. See, inclusive growth is conducive to the sustainable development by mitigating the adverse environmental impact of unchecked economic growth. See, traditional model of development often prioritize short-term gains at the expense of long-term sustainability. See, it leads to various issues like environmental degradation and ecological imbalances. In contrast, inclusive growth emphasizes the pursuit of environmentally sustainable and socially responsible development pathways, thereby safeguarding the natural resources for the future generation. We can also mention an example of how inclusive growth led to positive development. For example, Costa Rica, by investing in the education, healthcare and reducing inequality, has attained high level of human development like Norway, Sweden and Finland. See, this is all regarding the body part of the answer. Now coming to the conclusion part. See, promoting inclusive growth is crucial for the sustainable and equitable society. Cooperation among various sections of the society is essential to prioritize the policies, and investment in education, employment, social safety net, infrastructure, regional development and gender equality are very much important for a prosperous and sustainable future of any society. See, this is all regarding the discussion. In this discussion, we saw about the importance of inclusive growth. This is all regarding the discussion. With this, let us move on to the next part of our video, that is to discuss the preliminary practice questions. Today we are having two questions. Let us solve them. See the first question. Consider the following statements. Green credit program encompasses 8 key type of activities aimed at enhancing the environmental sustainability. See, this statement is correct as we have seen in our discussion. See the second one. Presently, green credits are tradable. See, we saw in our discussion that as of now, there is no element of tradableness in the green credit programming, but in the future, it can be made so. So, the statement is incorrect. See the third one. It aims to incentivize the diverse eco-friendly activities beyond just CO2 emission reductions. See, this is also correct as we have seen in our discussion. So the correct option is option C. Now see the second question of the day. If the RBI decides to adapt an expansionist monetary policy, which of the following would it not do? Now see, out of the three options, we ought to find what is the option RBI would not take. Before answering, let us see what is expansionary monetary policy. See, expansionary monetary policy or easy monetary policy is when a central government uses its tool to stimulate the economy. That is, increasing the money supply, lowering the interest rate and increasing the demand. See, it boosts economic growth. See the first statement. Raising the SLR makes the banks park more money in the governmental security and it will reduce the level of cash in the economy. Doing the opposite helps maintain the cash flow in the economy. So, statement 1 is incorrect. See the second one. With increasing the MSF rate, cost of borrowing will be increased for the banks. So, it will result in the reduced available resources to lend. So, statement 2 is correct. See the third one. Under expansionary monetary policy, RBI reduces the repo rate and bank rate to increase the liquidity in the banking sector. So, statement 3 is also not correct. So, the correct option is option B. The main question based on today's discussion is displayed here. Interested aspirants can write and get back to us. If you like today's video, like, comment and share it with your friends. For more updates regarding UPSC preparation, subscribe to Shankar IAS Academy. Thank you very much.